In this video, I want to talk about how you go about getting rid of distractions in your life, and in particular, how you can go about getting rid of distractions in your working life so you can work more efficiently and more effectively. Now, of course, in our modern life, we're bombarded by different requests for our time. There's all sorts of things you're expected to keep track of at the same time. It could be your work, your family, kids, email, social media, TV, there's interruptions, there are phone calls, there's all sorts of stuff that's going on in your life. And quite often it's hard to stay focused on one particular thing because something else is coming at you and demanding your attention all the time. So no wonder you feel tired and stressed because you're constantly being bombarded with these messages and you're constantly having to switch from one thing to another. And, our brains have evolved over the years, but really at the heart of your brain is the brain that was there if you're in a caveman or you're in a cave woman, and they tended to concentrate on one thing at a time. So modern life is really sort of playing havoc with the way that your brain has developed over the millennia. So what can you do to try and cut down on the distractions? Well, one thing that you can do is unsubscribe from mailing lists. If you haven't acted on an email from a particular list in over a year, then you should simply unsubscribe from it because you're not going to read it and it's just going to be a distraction when that email comes in. Another thing is to only check your email at certain times of the day. For example, I check my email first thing in the morning when I start working. I check it at lunchtime, and I check it towards the end of the day so that I've got time to reply to emails there and then, time to read emails there and then. And then other times of the day, I have my email client off, and I'm not distracted by emails coming in all the time. And that leads to the next point, which is don't leave your email client open all of the time. So when your emails come in from your server, you want to make sure that they get stored there until you decide when you want to read them. And you should also filter your email so that you can see when a message from someone important arrives. You can have them have particular messages go into particular folders. You can actually do this very easily if you use Mozilla Thunderbird, which is a free email client which you can download from mozilla.org. And it's the one that I use, and I find it very easy to use and very easy to set up filters so that I know who's sending me email and I can sort the wheat from the chaff, as it were. This page here in the Mozilla Support Index does explain how you can organize your messages using filters, and it gives you a whole lot of examples as to how you can do that. It is actually fairly straightforward, but it does help you to get your email organized, and so you don't have to wade through lots of spam and junk to find the really important messages. Another thing that you should do is to not have your TV on in the background. If you work from home, and particularly if you're home by yourself, let's say your spouse is out at work and your kids are at school, sometimes it can be a bit lonely when you're home alone, and a lot of people turn on the TV for company. And quite often people will have a news service like CNN or something on just in the background. But unfortunately, this can be very distracting because if you're trying to work away at your computer, you're sort of half listening to what's on the TV. And when something happens, say a news story breaks, well, you're going to abandon what you're doing and you're going to watch the TV, and that's going to steal the time away from things that you should be doing, things that you should be doing more productively. So don't have your TV on in the background. This news story can wait until the 6 o'clock news when you've got time to see it. Something else is to not have your phone on all the time. If you've got a cell phone and you have it with you all the time, chances are it's going to be on all the time. But when you're busy, when you don't want to be disturbed, or when you need some me time, then you want to switch it off. You should set up voicemail so that you don't miss anything, but you can always reply to whoever's calling you when you have the time. The same thing applies with your landline. You can set your calls up to go through to an answering service or your answering machine. Lots of landline phones have the ability to turn the ringer off so that you're not disturbed. If you use Skype for communicating with clients and that sort of thing, you can actually set the online status to do not disturb so that people know that you're not to be disturbed. You are busy. You are concentrating on whatever the task at hand is. And the same thing goes for social media, particularly if you check social media and you check emails and so on your smartphone. What you should do is only update social media at certain times. So pick an hour or so each day to spend on Facebook, Twitter, forum sites, and so on. And then you want to simply leave that behind. And if you're around at certain times on a forum, say, and you're communicating with people on that forum, they'll get to know when you're around because your posts will all be a similar time. And so if anybody wants to communicate with you directly, then they'll know to go to that forum at that particular time, whether or not that they'll find you there. Something else, and this is not really to do with work, but just to do with your life, is to make sure your kids have regular bedtimes. If you have kids, then you know how stressful it can be being a parent. So you really need some grown-up time to yourself. So you want to make sure that the kids go to bed at a regular time so that you can have some grown-up time either by yourself or with your friends or with your spouse so that you're not constantly having the pressure from your children. So when your kids are in bed, you can do whatever you want in the evenings as well and relax and not have to worry about the children. And finally, you should practice yoga or meditation because this can really help you unwind. It can really teach you ways of blocking out distractions so that you can really sort of zone in and relax. You can really zone in and block out everything that's impeding upon you and just sort of unwind and not be distracted. So there you go, just a few ways that you can get rid of distractions and scale back in your life.